All right. Thank you to everybody who read. Again, I'm an addict named Adam. I love you. I love you. Has anyone in here been to an NA meeting before? Not just in here, but on the outside? Have you ever heard of get a sponsor?
Yeah.
You've heard of that? Anybody had a sponsor in their life?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is my sponsor, Ryan D. And so I asked him to help tonight, and he'll share his story, but he'll also talk about sponsorship. And I'll try to cut into what he's going to say. But, sponsor is, it's someone who helps you, right? They're an advocate. And then ship is going to transport something, right? And so it's like sponsor, someone that's going to help me transport me through the steps. And then if you take the program serious, it's spiritual. So like almost transport transcends me to this new level of perception, new way of thinking. All right. Without further ado, my sponsor, Ryan D.
Thank you. I'm an addict named Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
So my clean date is March 4th of 2015. And the only reason that that's my clean date is because that's the day that the detectives caught up to me and took me to jail. I started out like a lot of us do, doing more socially acceptable stuff. I always used to tell myself, as long as I don't do this drug or do that drug, I don't have a problem. And it kind of runs in my family too. My dad's an alcoholic. Everybody on his side of the family has addiction problems. So as a kid, I saw all that stuff and what it did to people. And I always told myself, well, I'm not going to be like the other members of my family. So I would start telling myself, well, I'm not going to do this drug, or I'll only drink this day of the week, whatever. And eventually all those things that I said I wasn't going to do, I would slowly give myself an excuse to go ahead and do them. Like, well, it's okay this time. Like, well, my friend here's trying it. I'll be fine. I can do it too. And I would make little rules for myself. Like, I remember one certain drug, I said, as long as I don't ever buy it, I'll be fine. Because if I start buying it, I'm going to spend all my money on it. And I was able to stick to that for a real long time and, kind of keep it together, at least on the outside. And then eventually I was 17, 18 years old, drinking, and I got in a fight and ended up, the cops got called. And part of the court mandate was that I had to go to drug and alcohol counseling and I had to go to anger management. And I remember they took us to meetings at this drug and alcohol counseling. And I remember sitting in a meeting and just thinking to myself, like, man, I don't need to be in here. I might have got a little out of control, but I don't have a problem like what these people were talking about. I heard crazy stories, people talking about crashing vehicles. And there was one lady who lost part of her arm who was sharing her story. And I couldn't identify with it because my addiction hadn't taken me that far yet. So, the courts couldn't help me. Didn't think I had a problem anyways. As I got older, I did more and more things that I said I wasn't going to do. Went to jail more and more, went to more and more treatment facilities, went to different clinics, trying everything to fix the problem that I had. I always thought that the problem was a certain drug. As long as I don't do this certain drug, this is what always starts me down the path to where I end up in jail. I end up completely messing my life up again. And tried all these things and nothing ever worked. And when I moved to Virginia, I checked myself into a detox. I didn't want to get clean. I got in trouble at work. And I panicked. And I thought to myself, I need to do something. So I started calling these different numbers that I Googled, trying to get into a clinic or something like that. And one of the places I called said, well, you need to be clean before you can come here. So you need to go to a detox center first. So that was my next call. And while I was in this detox center, H&I, like what he's bringing in here, where NA brings meetings into the facility that I was in, they brought a meeting in, and something was different this time when these people were talking. I could identify with what they were talking about. They were telling stories that sounded like things I had done, but I still wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to quit using. So I get out of the detox center, going in there thinking I'm saving my job. And as soon as I go to my job, I tell them, like, look, they put me on these psych meds. I'm going to meetings. Everything's going to turn around. And they looked at me and they said, well, that's great. We're glad you're doing that. You're still fired, though.
Shit.
So I stayed clean for maybe 30, 60 days, something like that. And like was in the reading, how it works, alcohol is a drug. I always had a problem with that because I could always maintain with alcohol. So when I went to meetings and I heard alcohol is a drug, that always touched me wrong. Like I did not see it that way because a different specific drug was my problem. So that's what started the cycle all over again. Was I started drinking first, and eventually I led right back to the same stuff I was doing that got me in trouble the last time, and worse. So from the time I had 60 days clean until I ended up back in jail, it couldn't have been more than like maybe 2 or 3 months. And this time when I was in jail, I'm sitting in my cell and I'm looking at the ceiling. And I've always done this every time I get locked up. I start getting that moment of clarity where, I start getting a clear head again. And I'm sitting there looking at the ceiling thinking like, man, Ryan, how did you end up in this position again? You have done this shit so many times and you know what the outcome is going to be and you continue to do it. And I'm sitting there thinking that I have absolutely no hope, that I'm always going to be addicted to drugs and I'm always going to be screwing my life up. And then my next thought was, another way. Those people in the meetings that you were hanging out with when you were clean for 60 days seemed like they had some semblance of a life. And they talked about how they were doing a lot of the same things that you're doing. So I did my time in jail. I got very lucky. All of my sentence except for 4 months got suspended. So I did a very short stint, didn't have to go to prison, just stayed in city jail the whole time. Got out and started going to meetings. And one thing that I always heard in meetings was to get a sponsor. And from the very beginning when I was going to meetings, I would read the steps and I would look at all the stuff that the steps say and I would think, well, I already know all that stuff. It's just basically telling me to be a good person. I don't think I need a sponsor. I got this. I can handle this by myself. But even though I had proved time and time again that I couldn't. So for my first 6 months clean, I had no sponsor. I was homeless, living on the street, and it eventually got to the point where I was in front of a 7-Eleven thinking to myself, I'm either going to kill myself or I'm just going to go ahead and use, because if this is what my life is going to be clean, it is not worth it. And then once again, I know now it's my higher power putting these thoughts in my head, talking to me. But I had this thought right after I thought about killing myself for using, man, there's a meeting right up the street. You should just go to a meeting. So after all the time of going to meetings since I've been out, never asking for a sponsor, I sat through this meeting. And at the end of the meeting, the chairperson says, if there is anyone willing to be a sponsor, please raise your hand. And if you need a sponsor, get with one of these people after the meeting. And this guy who had shared at the meeting didn't share anything all that particularly great and nothing memorable, but I could tell from the way he shared that he meant what the heck he was saying. And basically what he was saying was he used to have to use and he no longer had to use anymore. And it was because of the 12 steps and the program of Narcotics Anonymous. So when I saw this guy raise his hand when they said, who wants to be a sponsor? I thought to myself, like, dude, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. Went up to him after the meeting and I asked him, said, man, I've been clean for 6 months, never got a sponsor. I've never done anything other than go to meetings. I need a sponsor. Would you consider sponsoring me? And he looked at me and he said, yes, I will sponsor you, but I'm going to tell you, if I sponsor you, you will work steps. I don't sponsor guys and not let them work steps. And I was so desperate, he could have told me to go outside the church the meeting was at and stand out there and juggle the rest of the night to stay clean, and I would have done it. So I started working step work with this guy. And living on the street, everything I had was in a kitchen garbage bag. Not even a big black garbage bag, a little kitchen one. And basically all it was a few sets of clothes and a basic text. I wasn't working. I was homeless. So what I would do in my free time is I would sit there with the basic text and the different things that he told me to read. That's what I would do to keep myself out of trouble. I would just get away from anyone else who was doing anything and just sit there and read our literature. And I want to say I worked the first 3 steps with no place to live. And as I kept doing this stuff, kept trying to do the right thing, things started getting better. Eventually I got into an Oxford house, which if you don't know what that is, that's where a bunch of recovering addicts all live together. And it gives you a structure and other people to hold you accountable and stuff. So it was a good environment to be in at that time. And things kept getting better. I got a job, started working at this job, kept working steps with my sponsor. And eventually things weren't good anymore. So the guy I was working for, I was working under the table. And after a job I did, he decided that I didn't do part of the job right and he wasn't going to pay me. So I couldn't pay rent at the Oxford house. I was barely making rent as it was. And my sponsor, he asked me what I was going to do. I said, well, man, I can't pay rent. I guess I got to go. It's going to be what it is. And it's weird though. All through this stuff happening, I didn't think about using. My first thought wasn't, man, I'm going to use, if this stuff is happening, why am I staying clean? That was not a thought. Thanks to working steps and then staying in contact with my sponsor every day. So I know I'm getting kicked out of the Oxford house and we're supposed to be having a hurricane coming. So I'm about to go live outside during a hurricane. Oh. And my sponsor comes and picks me up from the Oxford house when I got to leave and take all my stuff. And he says, you know what, man? I got the whole upstairs of my house. There's nobody living up there. Why don't you just come stay on this air mattress and just stay with me? So I just recently bought a house. I've rented the upstairs from my sponsor and lived with my sponsor for 9 years. So,
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
So I realize that's not everyone's story to have a sponsor who's going to do something like that for you, just move you into their house, barely knowing you. But stuff like that anytime something bad would happen, I always had this evidence in the back of my mind, stuff my sponsor did, stuff I saw other people do, to know that there were still good people. There were people in the rooms who cared about me. And to know that as long as I didn't use and I did what my higher power wanted me to, that most likely things were going to work out in my favor. So up to this day, the same guy is my sponsor. I've worked through all 12 steps one time and then back to number 2 with him. When I got to step number 6, like how I said, him raising his hand when they asked who wants to be a sponsor is how I ended up asking him to sponsor me. After working step 6, he said, you will sponsor guys now. When they say, raise your hand if you want to be a sponsor, you need to start raising your hand. And that's what one of the things that he taught me was helping other people. That's how this program works. Being able to identify with stories Adam tells me. Like he'll tell me some crazy story thinking it's the worst thing in the world. And I can look at him and say, like, dude, that ain't nothing. Guess what I did? So I'm so grateful for this program. Everything that I have in my life today, the friendships, the material stuff is secondary. I mean, it's great to be able to go from being homeless, coming out of jail and being homeless to where I'm at now. I didn't think it was possible, but it's the relationships, seeing people helping other people. Thanks for letting me share.
Wow.
Thanks for
Thank you for sharing.
Congratulations on your house.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ryan forgot to share, I'm an addict named Adam, that during COVID, his his grand sponsor, right? Great grand suddenly passed away. And then the great sponsor passed away. So like that, I mean, that can some sponsor lines up because I just didn't have him. Like when I got clean this time, I had to try something different. So I got this guy and he was just a temp sponsor. Like, I looked at it like a job. I was like, look, I'm just going to get this guy to sponsor me. And I worked the first 3 steps, but I don't know. He was like getting Viagra illegal off the street. So seriously, right? And so what I had to do though, was I had to ask somebody else first, right? Because I didn't just quit my sponsorship job, right? It's like I kept him, asked somebody else, then I cut ties with him, right? And got this other sponsor. So that's before Ryan now. And I was already, because when I came in, I was chasing Ryan to H&I. He was the chair of H&I when I got clean and played music. So we live in the same area. So we were friends before he was my sponsor. But the sponsor line I ended up with before I went to him, our great grand sponsor had 39 years and he straight ghosted everybody. See ya. Ghosted. I mean, and look, the sponsor I had got clean at 24. So he had been with his sponsor for 10 years. That f***ed him up. He was a young man, and here's this guy with 30 years, and then he just straight ghosted and come to find out he went back out, right? And so my sponsor didn't communicate it with me, and I was like, shoot, I need another sponsor. And I went ahead and asked Ryan. And some people still think he's homeless today.
I look more homeless now than when I was actually homeless.
But so here's the thing, is he stopped cutting his hair because his grand sponsor, Raymond, would cut hair. And then once Raymond passed, Ryan quit getting his hair cut.
Okay.
Right? And so it's like, if you're an addict, usually we do stuff like that. But and his sponsorship line do things completely different than the sponsorship line I was with. The sponsorship line I was with, we did that step. Y'all ever seen the step writing guide? Right? You ever see that? Well, look, it's a step writing guide. Step 1, 69 questions. Step 2, right? I mean, it's hardcore. Some people would say it kills newcomers because it's like, here, work the steps. And then you're like, going to college? It's like going to college, right? His sponsorship line does it out of the basic text. So it's very different. So it's like, I'm reading that. Well, I read Who's an Addict and read, the steps. I highlight things, right? Things that stick out to me, and I write about it and then share with him and then so forth. So it's like, there's no magic relationship. Like just because he's got his sponsorship or his sponsor for 10 plus years, I've had he's my 3rd sponsor coming in, And even the sponsor before him, like, man, that was one of the hardest relationships ever. He never called me. That cat never called me. And then when I call him, he wouldn't say anything. So then, like, immediately, in the light of exposure, I start boom, rambling. And he's a real smart cat. Like, he's a counselor, like an actual, he's a smart dude. But anyway, I say that Ryan's sponsorship line has been through a lot. And now I get to be a part of that. And I don't know. We can open the floor if you want to share on however you're feeling. If you want to ask questions about sponsorship or the steps, whatever. If you're new to NA, that's what we're here. But we're also here because we'll die because we have to recover. Serious. Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, I just want to say congratulations on that house.
Thank you. Thanks.
Another hilarious fact. You ready for this? I swear to God, his house is like 400 feet from his home group. I swear to God. And it's the same home group that he's been going to. Crazy.
9 years.
That's how you do it.
That's wow. Crazy.
Yeah,
Divine
intervention.
Yes.
Right.
That's how you do it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Linda. I'm an alcoholic and an addict.
Love you, Linda.
Ryan, thank you so much for your story. I think what hit me the hardest was thinking of you living on the streets with nothing but a garbage bag and reading that text. Like, that is going to any life.
Yeah.
In any circumstance. Like, that is, there's been so many times in my recovery journey where it's like, well, how am I going to stay clean if this or if that, or how am I going? You're out here on the street with nothing but that text, staying clean. Like, that is such an inspiration. It is such an inspiration.
Unreal.
And I'll never forget that story. Thanks.
Thank you. Love it.
Sorry.
Yes.
Congratulations on your house or congratulations on you for making it.
Thank you.
You could have gave up after a lot. You kept one foot in front of the other. They always say you rock with right foot forward. You being left behind.
Yeah. I guess all of us too, right?
Right. Yeah. Everybody in this room, at least you know.
Yeah. That's right. I agree. Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
My name is Sonia and I'm grateful for coming.
Sonia, love you.
So, Mr. Ryan, I just want to say I so appreciate your journey, and it tickled me about the story about the hair, not cutting the hair and everything. It shows so much of your confidence and self-esteem being high that you don't need anybody to validate you. You know where you came from and you know where you want to go. So for that, that puts a lot of me needing to hear that, or see it. You know what I mean? So I just gratefully appreciate you. Thank you for coming today.
Thanks for sharing.
Hi, my name is Tia. I'm an addict.
We love you.
Yeah. After seeing you for what, past few months now, your patients have gone from like here to way up here. Like I remember when you come in, like you were talking about Ryan, like you're like, I had to call my sponsor. I knew that I think you like yelled at a few people. It was funny.
Probably gambling.
And, like just to see like your growth, even like within that short period of time, like I just need the individual to grow. And thank you, Ryan, for sharing.
Yep.
Like I understand the homelessness. I've been homeless for about 4 years. And trust me, I wouldn't be able to do the just reading, playing text out there at that 7-Eleven. I was out there for a whole nother reading.
Thank you. And I'll go ahead and share this because I didn't share it at the meeting last night, but I just finished my PhD. And so I was stressed as a motherfucker, right? But I'm not like a real doctor. I'm not like Dr. House. But yeah, again, that's Narcotics Anonymous, really, and the steps for sure that allow me. Ain't no fucking way I could do that stuff. Yes. Yeah, we're just here.
Ryan, I understand that if you don't want to cut your hair, and I understand the reason why, but if you ever do, I've been to Cancer Survivor since 1996. If you please donate your hair to Longer Love.
Yeah. If I cut it, I will.
Adam, Patty.
Hey, how are you? Love you.
I love the way you come in here and you say that you love everybody because we do it with each other. We're always telling each other that we love each other and all that. But to hear it from somebody who is in the program and working it on the outside and making it happen, it just, I don't know, it's like a beam of light. You just kind of bring this beam of light with you when you come. And I really appreciate it. I really do.
Oh, no, and I do love you. honestly, here's the deal. So when I was like 6 months clean, and again, I got to be working on this PhD, so I thought I was real smart. We're from the love you lots area, right? Love you lots. And I'm like, that's not authentic to me. Love you lots, right? And so I'm more like, I motherfucking love you, right? I don't love you lots. Like, I love you. And then there was one point in my recovery, because, step 11, you can be real spiritual. And technically, well, you're supposed to take you away, me, you, and I. All of that's got to go, right? So it's just love you, right? Real spiritual. But I got back to what it is, love you. So, and I really do. I mean, without other addicts, without y'all, I wouldn't be here. Like, if y'all didn't screw up and come up in here, right? And vice versa, right? If I didn't come in and then they came in and saved me, so it's like.
I appreciate the fact that you keep that cycle going,
And Smitty, I'm the one thing that stood out to me so much is like how humble you are telling that story of like being homeless and still reading the big book and like staying fucking sober. Like, one of the things I go to both, AA and NA. Like, one of the things I love about NA is the fucking straightforward, like, kind of cuss you out fucking approach. But like, I also love that humble side too. And like, you don't hear it as much, but it's like, there's a really powerful message there, like, you were ready to just go be homeless again when the fucking Oxford House was not about to work out. Like, does anybody that's been fucking homeless, like, dude, the last thing I'm fucking thinking about in a scenario, I'm choosing to be homeless so I can spend more money on a fucking drug. You know what I mean? Like, the last thing I could think about being in that scenario is staying fucking clean. Like, just the humbleness of that shit, and really what struck me. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks for
Sharon, love you.
I've asked my sponsor about that too. Like, why did it, because a lot of the people that I got clean with, they've either OD'd and died, they quit going to meetings, or who knows where the heck they are. So I've asked my sponsor, how was I able to stay clean through all that stuff? How was I able to get it and these other people weren't? And simple answer, he just looked at me and said, because you were ready, you were done using. So,
My ass was not done using. I'm so serious. In fact, we talked about that. There's a part in Who's an Addict. Like, do I think that I can pick up and control my using again? Deep down, I do. There's still a part of me deep down, And so that's why I got to keep working the steps. Like, do I have reservations? Yeah. I mean, maybe not today and maybe not tomorrow because of those cliches, but I do. What if the Orioles won the World Series? I'd have to drink, right? I wouldn't. But you know what I mean? Like, what if my wife never came home, right? Or one of my children, lightning strikes. I think like probably over 1 million times on Earth a day, lightning strikes. And so like, eventually some shit happens. Like 1 million lightning strikes, maybe even more than that. And so it's like those things happen. And it's like, and I think I shared last week, like when with my siblings and losing people, and then NA just kind of kicked in, people calling nonstop, and I mean, we've had people that, their daughters get shot and killed. People die. People, like, crazy, tragic stuff happens in recovery. And it's like, how do you deal with that? I don't know. The program shows up. People show up and help you. So, do you have to pee clean for a key tag? No.
But I would like to have one of my clean.
It's a long ass time. You don't. That's another thing too. It's just like, go to the meeting. Just go. Like, I swear to y'all, like the last time, I mean, look, he was out on the street. My ass was just trying to not feel pain, and I didn't want to lose my wife. I didn't want to lose the things that I had, and so I don't know. That's why I went. And it was just like from May 13th until August 2nd, 2018. I mean, I was fucking using, going to meetings every day. In fact, I'd be like, all right, honey, going to a meeting. And I would, but I'm a cop. and it got to the point where I would wait till the end of the meeting to get it. Like something finally clicked and then I just didn't pick up, but it was like, yeah.
Let me ask you something. How do you make yourself let go of somebody that's not willing to put it down? How do you do that?
Look, my mother, all of them used, they're dead, right? Like my whole family is gone, all of them. Mom, father, Brandy, Heather, Scotty, sibling, David, my cousin, Shiloh, Danny, my whole gone. And so it's like, there's a part of me that's almost like, man, I had this whole other life. Cause then it's like, I had to go to the military, right? And came here and the disease came with me, got kicked out of the military, of course. But met my wife. My wife is like, geez, like she puts murderers and rapists in jail. Right. And so it's like, here I am, still fucking using and people still using. And then I don't know. I feel like now that I know it's a disease, they paid for me to go to treatment. They paid for me to go to treatment. They paid for me to be on all the different medications, because addiction is a disease. And so like I can accept it now that, I don't know. I'd say probably 2% of us, this is the old doctor research bullcrap, will ever get 5 years continuously clean and sober. So that's including AA too. So they don't take in consideration, so it's like only 2% of both fellowships, 2% of the people that will ever get 5 continuous years. And then one of those will continue to relapse because it's chronic and progressive. So like, I don't know. That's just the statistics. It's because it's gotta be a disease.
I know, and it really, supposed to do it in cross talking, but Angie, your question, you choose yourself. That's how you let somebody go. You choose yourself. Choose yourself in your sobriety, in your life. You'd be more important than if you love them, you let them go. You just look for the best, but you choose yourself.
Now, Ryan's in a relationship with someone who is an addict, right? So they're both, my wife is not. And that was, so when I got clean, I didn't have that. My family had already passed. Like I didn't have people at home that I would go to that were using. Like that's probably why a lot of us would return back, if you, what do they say? If you go to the barbershop long enough, you'll get your hair cut, one thing, that, and I bring up the founders, right? Like Jimmy K, his third wife, she was clean, right? They were in recovery together. And you go back even to AA. The women were supporting Bill and Bob. And then they started Al-Anon. So it's like, my house is recovery. Like, what's my wife doing Saturday? She's making banana pudding for Rudolph's 20th anniversary. If I was using, it'd be vice versa. We'd be having people coming over. She would go to the lick, right? So it's like, it's a 180-degree turn. And it's either we're doing recovery or not. And I can't, I don't know what it'd be like if it's your family member or someone you love that's still using.
Yeah, I've never really had to experience close family because my dad got clean years before I did. But I know my experience with like guys I was sponsoring and friends that are in the program, what I was always taught is if I'm not stronger than my own disease, how can I expect to be stronger than someone else's? And then basically what you said, they're going to get me high before I'll ever get them clean. It's not easy. It's easier said than done, but it takes a power not my own sometimes. Praying and meditating about it is how I get there. Talking to other people about it. Pretty much anything I've ever gone through. Another thing that was suggested to me was every meeting I go to, try to get somebody's phone number and then actually call them and talk to them. And from doing that for years, anything I've ever gone through, I have someone's phone number who I've heard them share about going through the same stuff that I'm going through right now. So, that's what the program's designed to do. We help each other. So that's another option too.
And And I think that's true too with sponsorship. You know, I mean, obviously, if I have something going on in my marriage, I mean, I can talk to Ryan about it, but I'm going to reach out to someone who's been married for 20 years in the program. You know, like the main goal of a sponsor is to walk you through the steps, you know, not be your personal ride or your bank account or whatever. So, yeah.
I remember what you said about getting on your knees, and that stuck in my head. And I have yet to do it. And I pray, but yeah, I think about that often because the realization that that is such a humbling thing to do. To just to admit the defeat in that circumstance. But yeah, that just stuck in my head, and I'm working towards that.
Thanks for sharing.
I have a question. What would you say for your cravings? Like, how long was it before that was lifted? Like, what? I know my triggers, right? And I know coping skills, and I know get to a meeting. But I know I hear a lot in the rooms about what it's been lifted. It's been lifted for me. Is that through the steps that they got lifted? Is that just through time?
All right. So for me, I try to dumb it down, right? So the desire's been lifted, and I think about shit all the time. Technically, I had to look up what a craving was. Once it's out of your body, we're not craving. We're just, we obsess on it. Like it's a hot day. I'd be thinking about the salt around the rim, right? And I mean, look, and do I believe in triggers? Sure. I mean, like I said, lightning strikes a million times a day. So like there's shit that happens. I feel all kind of feelings all day, but man, I'm an addict as soon as I wake up. It's abnormal. And I think too, when I heard Ryan talking about when, a loved one or like if somebody in the program uses, I'm kind of like, well, I guess that's what we do. Like, that's how I got to chalk it up, Same with I guess that's what I'm an addict. I'm going to want and think. But it was for me, honestly, I would say right around, and this was just me, it was like 9 months. Like, for real. I would leave the house still checking my pockets, like any leaf I saw on the ground, I was like, blunt. I'll tell this story. Look, there was a snowstorm, right? And so, I get to teach at ODU. And so they had shut stuff down, right? And they salted all the parking lot, everything. And then like 4 days later, I park. And so the salt and people had stepped everywhere. And there was a half a blunt. And the first thing my brain was like, I'm going to pick that up, take it home and put it in the oven. I'm going to put it on low, like 180, because it was soaking wet, right? Like that's my first thought. I swear to you, like, so, and that's, Ryan just shared he had used it. I have using dreams all the time. And it's weird using dreams. Like there's always booze and going on. All the people that have died in my life, they're there. A lot of times it's my childhood, like, and I'm going back to my stash places or like where my mom kept stuff. I mean, I don't know. It's always kind of there for me. It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. It kind of becomes an asset, and now we share about it,
Yeah. As an addict, not using, I'm in an abnormal state. My normal state is high. So if it's normal to think about it. And it's common for people who are new to think that there's something wrong if they're thinking about using. And it's the exact opposite. It's all I did for how many years. So depending on what drug I'm doing, of course, there's going to be different physical cravings, but the mental side of it, I mean, what's different now is a thought will enter my brain. It's usually not using. It's like, oh, I remember being over here doing this time and using that. And then my next thought is like, well, that's a crazy idea. Well, Ryan, get the fuck out of here.
I think too, at least for me, if you've had trauma, right? And you've gone through things from your childhood, look, in active addiction and just growing up, right? So it says here, many of us ended up in jail or sought help through medicine, religion, and psychiatry, right? And it says none of these methods was sufficient. It doesn't say we don't do it. It's just what I know is that I can do medicine, religion, and psychiatry at the maximum. You could give me steroid medicine, steroid religion, and steroid psychiatry, right? I still need a 12-step program. And then it's like, I don't know, that's just for me, right? So it's like some of those triggers for things that, do I got a counselor on the side? I do. In fact, funny, someone asked about the promises. This cat who I've been with for a while, his name's Robert E. Coleman. Throw it out there. He used to work at Bacon Street in Williamsburg, and he's about to retire or whatever. I've been with him for like 14 years, so he's seen me all messed up, showing up, Adderalls, falling out of the car, right? He was there when my mother, everybody died. He's the one that handed me the promises, right? And so I had already been coming to NA, but it was like, and NA says that stuff too, but like when I saw them promises, I was like, oh, if I just put 51% in, I'm going to see a new than I've ever seen before, right? Serenity. I'll know a new serenity. My financial difficulties will go away, all these different things. And that got me back on the train of recovery too. So I'm not supposed to do that, right? Like I don't, but I don't discriminate. I didn't discriminate against drugs. So, but yeah, utilizing the medicine if you're prescribed something by a doctor, if you go to church and religion, that's cool. Utilize it, do what it takes, have a counselor, those things. But what comes first, it's like, for me, is narcotics and not, and I always kind of knew it the first time I heard who's an addict. I was like, great, this is the answer. I always knew. And I think that's what makes it so difficult too, is that it's not that quick fix, the holy water, or here, take this prescription, right? The lobotomy. Like, it's not that quick fix. It's slow. And then there's that humbleness, pick up a white key tag, call your sponsor, all that stuff.
So you're telling me that as much love as I get in here, then I'm going to get that in there. Is that what you're saying? If I put into it? I'm just curious. Because I've never experienced it other than here, so.
I think so.
Yeah.
Look, here's what I know. That coffee, the first thing I go to a meeting, I'm like, damn, I don't even need a hug. Like, there's something about coffee for me, I can't use. So like in the morning, man, I need to smell something to get me going, right? And so it's like I'll go into a meeting, that coffee makes me feel, I don't know, already hugged. But people are people. People are people. There is some, look.
And not all of us go to meetings for the same reasons either.
No.
So,
Right.
still human beings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, so like I said, I've been playing 13 years. I've been to a meeting every day within 13 days. This will be the 14th. I've never heard anybody come and speak and start out with how you love us.
Yeah. No, yeah, I know. I love y'all so much. It's like, right? I get to you fill me up. Like, seriously. And I know I'm not alone. I know that, I've been through everything. Yeah. I guess, I'm sure some of us wouldn't like each other,
Well, yeah.
But it's like, I don't know. I feel like coming to the rooms, I know I can call Ryan if my life depends on it. Like, I know, I can call people in the rooms and they can be there for me. Yeah.
Okay, one more thing. So I found that going through the book that I kind of jumped really hard on the one about, giving back, because that's something that I'm prone to do. I'm comfortable doing that. And without a sponsor leading me through the steps, did I screw myself up by doing that?
Well, there's always, you can start over right now. And technically, I like to mess with Ryan. I'll be like, why sponsee him? Like, that's how I get through it. That's how I get through that. Well, I'll sponsee the sponsor. Because essentially, that's, like, I put the work in. You know what I mean? Any sponsee I've had, if they don't put the work in, if they don't call me or they don't do the suggestions, then whatever. So if I take the suggestions and I'm sponsoring him, and then I am giving back, essentially. So it's like, just by following that sponsee thing, but it's like, not every sponsor-sponsee relationship is, you know what I mean? Like, if you're someone that's been to jail, if you're someone that's been into gangs, right? You'll probably get a temp sponsor, work those first 3 sponsors, come to meetings, and then you'll find the right, God will put you with somebody. If you've been in the military, right? Or if you're a woman and you've gone through some crazy shit, get a temp sponsor, work on those first 3 steps. And then when the time is right, because that 3rd step says the word God, that's when that right person will come into your life. and you'll find the right person that you can share with. I believe that totally. I mean, shoot, like, man, working the steps homeless. You know what I mean? Like, and then those things kind of come to us. So
Thanks for being the guy that nobody seems to leave early from.
no, I do. Look, I know I wear it out with the I love you, but for real. And also, does anybody have a burning desire? Does anybody think or feel like they have to use for some reason? All right. What about just for today? Go ahead. Yeah. You were going to share?
Just for today, people.
Just for today. Tell yourself. So, I'm a.
You're a human being.
Yeah.
I just kept us longer.
Hi, my name is Angel.
Angel.
I'm a grateful recovery addict. Angel tip.
Love you, Angel.
I love you too. Tell yourself, just for today, my thoughts will be on my recovery, living and enjoying life without the use of drugs.